Close your eyes for a second. Now try not to think about a white elephant. What happened? You thought about it, didn't you? That's the problem. Your mind doesn't always listen to you. Sometimes it feels like it has a mind of its own. But here's the truth most people never realize. The person who controls your mind controls your entire life. And right now, that person might not be you. Think about the last time someone said something hurtful to you. Maybe it was weeks ago. Maybe even months. But you still remember it, don't you? You can still feel it. That's because your mind has been replaying that moment over and over, like a song stuck on repeat. You didn't ask it to. You didn't want it to. But it did anyway. Now imagine if you could stop that. Imagine if you could choose what stays in your head and what gets thrown out. That's what we're talking about today. The art of controlling your mind. Not by forcing it. Not by pretending. But by understanding how it really works. Let me ask you something. Who's really in charge of your thoughts? You might say, I am. But are you really? When someone cuts you off in traffic, who decides to get angry? When you see someone doing better than you, who decides to feel jealous? Most of the time, it's not you. It's something deeper. Something automatic. Your brain has been wired over thousands of years to react fast. To keep you safe. To protect you from danger. But here's the problem. Your brain can't tell the difference between a lion chasing you and someone laughing at you. To your brain, embarrassment feels like death. So it panics. It floods your body with stress. It makes you want to run, hide, or fight back. And suddenly, you're no longer thinking clearly. You're just reacting. That's the invisible puppet master. The part of your mind that pulls the strings before you even realize what's happening. But what if you could see the strings? What if you could catch yourself before the panic takes over? Let's go back to that image you saw. The one that said, if someone doesn't love you, pretend you don't even want them. On the surface, it sounds like good advice, right? Protect yourself. Don't look weak. Stay calm. But here's the thing, pretending doesn't make the pain go away. It just buries it. And buried pain doesn't disappear. It grows. It waits. And one day, it explodes. This is what most people don't understand about controlling your mind. They think it means hiding your feelings, suppressing your emotions, acting like nothing bothers you. But that's not control. That's avoidance. Real control is different. Real control is when you feel the pain, acknowledge it, and then choose what to do with it. You don't pretend you're not hurt. You say, yes, this hurts, but I'm not going to let it ruin my day. That's power. That's freedom. So how do you do that? How do you stop pretending and start actually controlling your mind? Imagine you're sitting in a movie theater. On the screen, there's a character going through something painful. Maybe they're being rejected. Maybe they're failing at something important. You feel bad for them. But you don't panic. You don't run out of the theater. You just watch. Now imagine you could do that with your own thoughts. Instead of being inside the pain, you step back and watch it. You become the observer. This is one of the most powerful psychological tools ever discovered. It's called cognitive diffusion. Here's how it works. When a negative thought enters your mind, you don't fight it. You don't push it away. You just notice it. You say to yourself, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. Not, I'm not good enough. But, I'm having the thought. See the difference? You're no longer drowning in the thought. You're just watching it float by. And when you do that, something magical happens. The thought loses its power. But what about the big emotions? The ones that feel like they're going to swallow you whole? Think about the ocean for a second. When a wave comes, you have two choices. You can try to stop it. Stand there with your arms out and yell, no. You're not allowed to crash. Or you can let it pass through you. Emotions work the same way. They're like waves. They rise, they peak, and then they fall. The problem is, most people try to stop the wave. They panic. They fight. They say, I shouldn't feel this way. But fighting a wave only makes you tired. It doesn't stop the ocean. So here's what you do instead. You feel it, fully. Completely. If you're sad, you let yourself be sad. If you're angry, you let yourself be angry. But here's the key, you don't act on it. You just sit with it. And after a few minutes, something incredible happens. The wave passes. The emotion fades. Because emotions aren't permanent. They're just visitors. And if you let them visit, they'll leave on their own. Now you might be thinking, but what about the thoughts that keep coming back? The ones that never leave? Here's a secret about your mind. It loves patterns. If you think the same thought over and over, it becomes a groove, a pathway. And soon, your brain automatically goes down that path without even asking. This is why some people can't stop worrying. Why some people always expect the worst. Why some people keep replaying old mistakes. Their brain has learned a pattern. And patterns are hard to break, but not impossible. The trick is to interrupt the pattern. To catch yourself mid-thought and say, wait, I've been here before. I know how the story ends. And then you choose a different thought. A different path. At first, it feels weird and natural. Your brain wants to go back to the old groove. But if you keep interrupting, keep choosing differently, something amazing happens. You create a new groove, a new pattern, and eventually, that becomes automatic too. So you've learned to observe your thoughts. You've learned to ride the wave. You've learned to break the pattern. But there's one more piece to the puzzle. Look at that image again. Never take a defensive position about anything. Just act as if you were not bothered. This sounds strong, doesn't it? Like you're untouchable, unbothered, in control. But let me tell you something, pretending you're not bothered when you actually are. That's exhausting. And it's also a lie. The truth is, you're human. You have feelings. You have triggers. And that's okay. Real mental control isn't about being a robot. It's about being honest. It's about saying, yes, that comment hurt me, but I'm not going to spend the next 3 days thinking about it. It's about feeling the sting without letting it become a wound. Because here's what most people don't realize. When you pretend nothing bothers you, you're still letting it control you. You're just hiding it. But when you acknowledge it and let it go, that's when you're truly free. And that brings us to the most dangerous trap of all. Do not pay attention to your mistakes. Ignore them and others will do that as well. This one sounds tempting. Just ignore your failures. Pretend they didn't happen, move on. But here's the problem. Ignoring your mistakes doesn't make them disappear. It just guarantees you'll make them again. The truth is, mistakes are information. They're your brain's way of saying, hey, that didn't work. Let's try something different. When you ignore them, you throw away that information. And then you're doomed to repeat the same patterns forever. So instead of ignoring your mistakes, you do something different. You learn from them without drowning in them. You say, okay, I messed up. What can I do better next time? And then you move on. No shame. No spiral. Just learning. That's true mental control. Here's what all of this comes down to. Controlling your mind isn't about never feeling bad. It's not about being strong all the time. It's not about pretending you're fine when you're not. It's about creating space. Space between what happens and how you react. Space between a thought and a belief. Space between an emotion and a decision. When you have that space, you have choice. And when you have choice, you have power. Most people live their entire lives without ever realizing they have this power. They think their thoughts just happen to them. They think their emotions control them. But you're different now. You know the truth. Your mind is powerful, but you're more powerful. So what does this actually look like in real life? Let's say someone criticizes you. Maybe it's your boss. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's a stranger on the internet. Your brain wants to panic. It wants to defend. It wants to replay that moment 1,000 times. But instead, you pause. You observe. You say, I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough. You feel the wave of shame rising, and instead of fighting it, you let it rise. You sit with it, and then you watch it fall. You notice the pattern trying to start, the old groove that says, see, you always mess up. You're always the problem, and you interrupt it. You say, that's the old story. I'm writing a new one. You acknowledge the mistake without drowning in it. You say, yeah, I could have done better. I'll do better next time. And then you move on. Not because you're pretending it didn't hurt, but because you're choosing not to carry it with you. That's the art of controlling your mind. Your mind is the most powerful tool you'll ever have. But like any tool, you have to learn how to use it. You have to understand how it works. What makes it panic? What makes it spiral? What makes it strong? And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop being a victim of your thoughts. You stop being controlled by your emotions. You become the person you were always meant to be. Clear.com. In control. Not because nothing bothers you, but because you know how to handle what does. So the next time your mind tries to pull you into a spiral, remember this. You're not your thoughts. You're the one watching them, and that means you get to choose which ones you listen to. If this video helped you see your mind a little differently, let me know in the comments. What's one thought pattern you're ready to break? And if you want more videos like this, hit that subscribe button because we're just getting started. Your mind is waiting. Let's take control of it together.